Hello, Kensington Knights. It's so good to see you. Um, Today we are working on stated main idea versus implied main idea or implicit main idea. We're going to be focusing on the implicit or implied main idea the most today because we're pretty good at figuring out this stated main idea. It says I can find the implicit or implied main idea by asking questions like, what does each chunk of text seem to be about? And how do these chunks fit together? Today we're going to do something different. We're going to watch a video together. Okay, but first let's go ahead and get our Reader's Workshop notebook set up. Make sure you have the page number, the title, the date, the I can statement, and then your stated two types of main idea, stated versus implied. And let's go ahead while you're doing that. Stated main idea is right there in the text, whereas the implicit or implied main idea is found. I don't know if you can see this, but there are several words that are italicized throughout this passage, and they are all clues that show you the main idea instead of telling you the main idea. Okay, so let's go back. What we're going to do is we've got our two major questions that we ask. After each part, ask what does this chunk seem to be about, and how do the chunks fit together? And so that's what we're going to do as we listen and watch this video together. I don't know if it's just because of social studies with the guided questions, but I'm thinking there's a guided question there. Are you ready? Are you prepared? So when I go over here, I'm going to exit out of this, and this is the guided question that I jotted down. Are you ready, New York? Okay, and as we listen more, there we go. So I don't know about you, but I was thinking in my mind, what do they need to get ready for? Okay, so hurricanes, blackouts, fire, winter storms. Okay, those were the things that they have mentioned so far in this video. Okay, fires was already on our list. I need to add building collapses and power outages. We can add flash floods, weather extremes, okay? So when we go back to our notebook, these are the notes that I took. Fire, hurricane, blackout. Are you prepared? Heat wave and winter storm. Okay, now I got to think, most places have these kind of things that happen to them. Why does this show seem like it's so panicked about New York not being prepared? Well, let's go back and let's listen to it once more. Oh, so the large population and its geography. New York is almost completely surrounded, and subsections are completely surrounded by water. So that makes it vulnerable as well. Okay, let's continue. Aging power, water, and transportation grids. And you keep hearing that word vulnerable, vulnerable. You hear prepared and you hear vulnerable. Okay, so when we go back, I've got the old power, water, and transportation. Okay, so now you can see how my note taking has evolved. That word infrastructure. So if the airports are underwater, that means the subway is going to be underwater. That means you're going to have, he said hurricane, and a surge of water. Okay, so you're looking at infrastructure must be the power, the water, transportation, which includes the airport. Okay, so now we figured out what that word meant. Infrastructure means power, water, and transportation. Okay, so now that we've done that, we've figured out what the big chunks are. Emergencies, whether they're man-made or nature-made, okay? And the two reasons that New York is vulnerable, the population and geography, and the old power, water, and transportation. Now, how does that fit together? Well, it fits together kind of like a cause and effect because they are vulnerable, okay, because of the geography and the population. Fire, hurricane, blackout, heat waves, winter storms, and extreme weathers make it very difficult for the large population during an emergency. Also, because of the old power, water, and transportation systems, it makes New York City vulnerable during these types of events. So, what's the big idea? When we piece all of this information together, we've been hearing vulnerable, vulnerable, and be prepared, be prepared. So, living in New York means you are vulnerable and you have to be prepared for emergencies. We've got vulnerable in there, we've got prepared in there, we've got emergencies in there. That's how all of that fits together. Okay? And so that's how you come across an implied main idea. We have a passage practice that ironically fits with New York. It's about immigrants in New York and the Lower East Side in Manhattan. Okay, and we're going to read this passage together and we're going to work together either using Jamboard or Google Slide to work on this passage to figure out the main idea. You have your regular stop and jot today. My example is when I watched the video about hurricanes, I noticed that there was a guiding question at the beginning. Are you prepared? I asked myself, why does New York need to be prepared? As I listened, two big chunks of information came up. One, the population and geography made New York vulnerable. And two, its old systems or infrastructure made it vulnerable. The main idea is if you live in New York City, you're vulnerable and you need to be prepared for emergencies. Okay, then you also have a brief Google assignment where you have to read a small main idea passage. Then you have to write what the passage seems to be mostly about. And then you write how the supporting details fit together to support that implied main idea. And then there's another slide, and it has a dark circle on it, and you just grab that circle, and there's an A, B, C, D choice. You put the circle over either A, B, C, or D, whichever one is the best choice, and then you submit it using these buttons up here near present and share. There should be a submit button there. All right, guys. Don't forget to do some independent reading as well. I hope you have a great day. I look forward to seeing you at Teams. Read on, Knights.